Okay, hello everyone. I hope you guys are doing well today. My name is Maddie. If you've never been here before, I live just outside of Paris and I just completed my year of the Tapif program, the teaching assistant program in France. Basically, this program, you come and if you are an Anglophone, an English speaker, you come to France and you teach 12 hours a week of English courses. You're assisting other teachers. So that's what I just completed. And the reason why I kind of wanted to talk about my experience today is, first of all, the program is done. It had to stop a little bit early because of COVID. So I just kind of wanted to get my thoughts down while the iron was hot, whatever. But I just wanted to talk about this because I just completed my year. And also, I watched a YouTube video this morning by two fellow Tapifers, and I think their channel is called the Francofile. I'm going to have a link down here below because I thought that their video was really great about kind of addressing the negative aspects of Tapif that a lot of people kind of complain about. So I just thought it was fantastic, and it kind of made me just want to sit down, and talk about my experience. Because I had, which I'm sure you will see by the title of this video, I had a really, really positive experience this year. I had so much fun. I really enjoyed it. And so I just kind of wanted to talk about the reasons why I had a positive experience, because I think it'll give some insight into kind of what advantages I had in the program. And so I hope it can kind of help people that have applied or thinking about applying. And so yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so the first point that I think is really important to kind of acknowledge in these situations is just kind of my privilege or certain things about myself that would make this program easier. First of all, okay, so it's getting bright. So first of all, I am a white woman, so I never have to worry about being discriminated against for my race or ethnicity. And I know there were a few instances in our Tapif Facebook group where people felt like certain people were being racist to them. And I think just like any other part of the world, there are some really horrible people that you can come into contact with. So obviously that makes me privileged in a lot of ways. Okay, hello, this is Maddie from 10 minutes in the future. As you can see, I'm just editing the video right now. But I just wanted to clarify that I just didn't like my tone and how I delivered that point. I had said it 3 different times and I wasn't exactly sure how to phrase it. So I just wanted to clarify that I'm just trying to say that I think it's important to acknowledge that I never had any roadblocks because of my race or ethnicity. And I do think that's something important to acknowledge, because it's really easy to talk about how oh my gosh, I had such a fun, amazing experience. I just think it's important to take all the things into consideration, why that would be. Why did I have such an easy experience, and just kind of being transparent about that. I hope this is clear. And every point that I make in this video, it's you don't have to do those things. Your experience is going to be a little bit different. There's many different ways to go about doing this program, but I just wanted to make it really clear that I just always I think what I'm trying to say in this video, and I don't know if I'm doing a good job of delivering it at all times, but basically I'm just trying to tell you all the different ways that I maybe had advantages or just certain privileges that could have affected my experience. I didn't want to just talk about what an amazing year it was and how fun it was and how easy it was without acknowledging the different privileges I had and the different roadblocks that I don't have. I hope that makes sense, and I don't even know if this is just making it more lengthy, but I just wanted to clarify that. And so back to the video. Also, I knew coming over here that if something ever happened to me and I was in a really tough spot, my family has the resources to help me out. If there was ever an emergency, if something happened, I knew that they could step in and do something, which I think is it's just a huge burden off of your shoulders if you're moving abroad. So, and I think that's definitely something super important to acknowledge. Like if I ever got into a health emergency and I couldn't pay for it, they could help me. So I think that that's kind of important to acknowledge starting this video, just because I just want to be transparent and I think it's just a good practice. Okay, so the second thing kind of about my personality is I just have the personality of I'm pretty flexible. I don't get super worked up about things, going with the flow, and I think that that really helps me to adjust in different environments, and I think that that just kind of makes it easier to be thrown into different situations, like moving abroad. I'm like, oh, okay, like this is how it's gonna go, this is how it's gonna be, great, I will adjust as needed. So I think that's definitely something that also has helped me with this program, just kind of being like navigating the ins and outs of it, just kind of having an open mind and being like, okay, this is how it is, this is how it is, you know, whatever. Okay, so my next point of why I had kind of a positive or an easier experience is because I have lived in France before. Of course, you don't have to live in France to come do this program and enjoy it, you know, of course. But it definitely makes it a lot easier because I just like, I mean, I've lived in this area before, I've lived in Paris before, and so of course, like I knew where everything was, I knew how to use the metro. I just had a really easy time transitioning because I've done this before, I've been here before, I know how things are, I know how it works. So I think that that's another reason why I had a really positive, kind of easy experience adjusting to the program. The next point that I think is really important is I got a good placement. Okay, so this is really crucial because whenever you apply for the Tapif program, you get to preference your different regions, your academy that you want to live in. So you can, okay, so you preference your regions, and then from there you can get placed in the city or in a super small town. So even if you're in like Versailles, like you can be in a super small town away from everyone, and then it's kind of your choice of whether to live in that small town or to commute. So it's kind of, you have to navigate that. And also, you could be nowhere near a big city where you can't even commute. You have to just live in that small town and be a little bit more isolated, which I think can be really hard on your mental health. I was placed in Versailles, the Académie de Versailles, which is just the region, and because, and this is another point I'll get to, because I already had somewhere to live, I was gonna live with my boyfriend, or maybe I was gonna like find an open, like long story short, I had an address that I could put down of somewhere to live, which basically no one can do. So my two schools were a 10-minute walk and a 15-minute walk from my home. That is huge because, so for example, on Monday morning, class started at 7:55 a.m. So if I had to commute, I would have to get up at, 6:30, 7 a.m. But I could, I would not recommend doing this, but if I was super tired, I could roll out of bed at 7:30 and be to school on time. Like that's how close I was. And it's just so nice because if you have a little break or if you have lunch, you can come home and eat here. So it's just super, it's so nice to live so close to your workplace. Like, could not recommend it enough. Whereas if you have other breaks or you have lunch and you have a long commute, you're at the school literally all day. So I never had to be at my schools all day. So I had a lot of free time. So that's definitely a huge reason why I had a positive experience, is I just got a good placement because I already had an address and maybe just some luck. So your placement can have a huge effect on whether you have a positive or a negative experience. Okay, so that kind of, I already discussed it, but that was kind of my next point, was I had a place to live. This is huge. That is one of the hardest parts about moving to France and doing this program, is you're kind of on your own as far as finding somewhere to live, and especially if you get placed in Paris or kind of the surrounding region, the bigger cities. It's kind of hard to find a place to live, and it is so expensive to find an apartment. Literally like a tiny studio, just a studio can be 600, 700 euros, and that is pretty much your entire budget, which I will get to in a second. So definitely I had a place to live, and that was huge. Just such a huge part of just taking the weight off my shoulders and not having to worry about that at all. That was one of the main topics that everyone was talking about in our Facebook group when we first got here, was just talking about trying to find a place to live, and you need a guarantor to get an apartment here. Basically, that means that you need someone, if you're not, basically it means you need someone to say, to basically guarantee that you'll pay the rent. So you need someone to do that. If you have a guarantor, it's a lot easier. A lot of people can't get that, and then also it's just so expensive. You have to deal with signing up for CAF, which is basically a government assistance to pay for rent. So there's a lot of things that I could get into with this, but I will just say having a place to live was just, cannot even describe to you how huge that was and how much of a stress was lifted off my shoulders. And yeah, huge. Another way that you can kind of circumvent not having a place to live is by also being an au pair on the side. That gives you a free place to live, or you can try to kind of make a deal with a family, like you'll live with them and teach their kids English, and in return they will give you a place to live, because it's actually technically illegal to have outside work. I'll get into that into a second. So having kind of like a work exchange for a place to live, I think that's a really nice way to kind of circumvent the housing issue. So that's all I'll say about that, is I had a place to live and it was so huge. Okay, so the next part that I will just kind of, this goes into having a place to live, was I live with my boyfriend, Khalil, and that just kind of goes into, I had support coming here. I already had some friends that live here from my past au pair experience, and just having support through this experience is huge. It's so important for your mental health. Just having someone that you can kind of talk to about things and not feel alone, and just someone to, if you ever need, I don't think I need to explain to you why support is important, but I just think that because I already had some support here, it made my experience so much easier and so much more positive, because I wasn't feeling lonely or alone. And yeah, it was that's huge. So definitely, I think that if you don't know one coming over here, just get in the Facebook group and try to make connections early, and don't be afraid to make friends with other assistants, maybe even au pairs in the area. If you live, I do know that this can be a major issue if you live in like a smaller town, trying to make friends. I know this is an issue that a lot of teaching assistants have issues with, is mental health issues as far as feeling isolated. So I think that was huge for me, having a positive experience. So that's pretty much it for that point. Okay, so the next point is I could already speak a little French. My French level, I would say, is pretty intermediate. I minored in French at the University of Kansas, and then I came to France, was an au pair. My French improved so much, and I think it's still improving. I think it has plateaued off a little bit, but that's like a whole other story. But definitely having some sort of skill level with the language makes it so much easier. I would highly, 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 highly recommend, if you feel like you don't have a good handle on the language, definitely spend your summer or however much time you have before you come trying to improve your level, because there might be, I think it depends also on the level that you're teaching at. But in my level, collège, middle school, some of the kids really didn't have a good level of English. And if I was in a classroom with a small group and they didn't have a good level of English, if I couldn't speak and understand French, then, what could we have done? You can't just keep repeating things to them in English and waiting for them to get it. At a certain point, you do need to use some French words. Also, outside of school, being able to just operate in your environment, pay for something, order something, it makes you so much more comfortable. And also, especially in Paris, if you can speak a little bit of French, people will just be a lot more willing to help you, I think. I do know also it can be an issue if you're in like a small one-horse town, and it's much more likely that no one speaks English there, so you need to be able to speak French. So I think that having a good handle on the French language isn't emphasized enough in the, they do say it, you even have to have like a test to do the program, like on your French level, or you have to get a recommendation letter. But I would highly, highly, highly recommend that you have a good handle on the French language. And I do think that's what made my experience more positive, is because I kind of already did. So definitely practice that French, guys. And it is really fun once you can kind of get here and you feel like you can have a conversation or talk to someone, or I don't know, like speak in another. It's just fun to learn another language. So yeah. I will say, just to add on to that, is also Khalil is fluent in French, so that was really helpful, especially if there's ever any administrative tasks I need help with, if I was about to send a text or an email and I just wanted to make sure that the grammar was okay. He could look at it really quickly. He's also someone I can practice with. Not that we do that often, I know, but definitely just kind of having a French speaker in my home, that is another huge advantage. I will say that I just wanted to say, because this is talking about why and how I had a positive experience. So having a French speaker with me definitely helped a lot. So I just want to say that as well. This is also just kind of a random point, but whenever I got super, super lucky when I went to open my French bank account, I don't know why it can be kind of hard to open a bank account. It's one of those things where like you need an address to open a bank. You need there's just a lot of things that can happen. And so I went to one bank and I was like trying to make a rendezvous, because long story short, you need to open your bank by a certain time to get in advance, because otherwise you don't get paid until November 1st, and you get here on I got here on September, I think 24th. And so you don't get paid until November. So I was like needing to get in advance. So I went to one bank, and of course I procrastinated. So I went to one bank and I asked if I could make a rendezvous, and they were like, oh no, it's impossible, there's no appointments, whatever. So I was like, you know what, let's go to LCL and I'll see if I can get a rendezvous there. That's where my old bank was when I was an au pair. So I went to LCL and I was talking to the lady. We were trying to make a rendezvous, and this lady walked by, one of the bankers, and she was like, oh, what do you need? You want to open an account? Come with me, we'll do it right now. That never happens. No, stuff like that never happens in Paris. I just feel like no one's ever like, oh, I'll do it for you. I have some time, no big deal. I'm also a little bit outside of Paris, so I think that makes a difference. It's just a little bit less busy. But she was like, yeah, I'll open it for you. And I was like, oh, I don't have my passport. I don't have anything with me. Khalil, he has to have an attestation of that I live with him. And he was like, I don't have that. I don't have an ID card. And she's like, oh, just email everything to me while we're talking and it's good. Literally, sometimes you just get lucky. And so with that instance, and I know some people who had a lot of trouble opening their bank account. So that is another way that I just got super, super lucky. And that lady, I guess, just decided to help me out on that day. So I was just lucky, I guess. Okay, so the next reason why I had a really positive experience with Tapif is because I had another income. Okay, so when you apply for Tapif and you get your little booklet thing, they say to you that outside work isn't allowed, which I think it's kind of a wink wink nudge nudge situation. I don't know if I should be saying this, but so the Tapif payment, the salary is 790 euros a month, which is not a lot at all. I think you could make it work if you're in a smaller town, but if you're, they straight up tell you in our little guidebook, if you live in Paris, this is not a livable fee. This is not enough money to live in bigger cities, basically, because you're going to be spending basically all of that on rent. So you really need to find another job. There's a lot of different options. Well, the only issue is our visa is a travailleur temporaire, which means that you're a temporary worker, so you do not have the authorization to work another job. So you can't go work at Urban Outfitters, which would be so fun. You can't go work at a bar, which would also be fun. Your options are you can be an au pair without a contract. You can try to do a work living type exchange situation. You can do tutoring or you can do babysitting. Those are all kind of under the table jobs. I don't want to advocate for anyone doing anything illegal, but having another income is essential, in my opinion. Because I don't know, I just know myself, and I know that I like to go to bars, get a drink, go to a restaurant, you know, like I am not by any means doing anything super flashy. I didn't really travel at all this year, but I do enjoy like going to get a coffee at a coffee shop. So I was like, I need to make some extra money to take care of myself. And also I wanted to like go home for Christmas and things like that. So I needed money. So I arrived here on September 24th. I had another job by September 30th because, especially if you're in a bigger city, this is another reason why it was super easy for me, is because I was in a bigger city where everyone is looking for someone to teach their kids English. Everyone here kind of the same, I mean, I don't want to say everyone, but it is such a huge emphasis to teach your kids English. So I posted something in a Facebook group that is now, I think, closed. And I was like, hey, my name is Maddie. I'm an English teacher. I was an au pair. I'm just looking for some like babysitting hours. I got like 20 messages. I mean, I could have picked anyone. So I had a job by September 30th. And from then on, I was making just like cash every week. So definitely just having some extra money, I think that is such a huge advantage. It just gives you a little bit more wiggle room. I don't think you're never going to be making enough money to really like ball out, but I would go so far as to say I wouldn't really recommend doing this program unless you either have a place to live or a secondary income of some sort from like tutoring or whatnot, because I just think it would be really, really hard. So yeah, definitely having a secondary job is essential. Also, a lot of things that people complained about in the Facebook group was if you live in a super, super small town, it can be hard to find families looking for a babysitter, a nanny, a tutor. I would recommend doing one of the online English teaching programs, Cambly, VIP Kid. If you have a computer, if you have access to the internet, which I hope you do wherever you're living in France, that is just a set way that you can get money. Definitely do that. Okay, so this is another huge point about why I had, and this is like probably the most important point about why I had a positive experience, and it is because my teachers were so nice. If any of them happen to stumble upon this video, thank you for an amazing year. I just had the most wonderful time. The teachers were amazing. They really welcomed me with open arms. Just so kind. I loved getting to know them, talking to them about, you know, their outside work, their lives, where they're from, and all of them were just really, really open with me. They really kind of let me run with whatever I wanted to do, you know, just whatever. Like one teacher, she would literally just let me pick a topic, and I could teach anything I wanted to. So I did a lot of kind of not intricate, but kind of like heavier American history topics that we could talk about together with the class, and she would help me translate for them, and it was just really wonderful, and I am so grateful. My prof referent, the one who was the one who, she's like your contact for the program, she has like kept up with me during this whole pandemic, and she's been like, how are you, you know, how you're doing, and she's just so lovely. So I think that is such a huge point, of course, of why I had a positive experience, is because my teachers were just so great. And I know that that's not the instance with everyone in this program, so I'm really just like super lucky, and I just loved them. They were amazing. So shout out to all the teachers I worked with. And if you're curious, I think I worked with like, wait, let me count really fast. I think I worked with eight teachers total. Yeah, I think I worked with 8 different teachers, and every single one of them was super nice, so it was great. So another reason why it's great to have kind of a close relationship with your prof referent, and why I think it's another reason why I had such a positive experience, is because I wouldn't say, like, Tapif, the program itself, isn't really a good resource to go to if you're having issues, because they take care of, I think, the Canadian assistants and the American assistants. They're more there just like get your foot in the door. Once you get to France, I think it's better to kind of have contact with someone here, because the analogy that I kind of would give to you is, so I used to work as an sales associate. I used to work as a sales associate at Anthropologie. If I had an issue at work, I wouldn't talk to corporate at Anthropologie because they don't know me. I'm just another one of their little minions under their umbrella, like, and they have a lot of things to deal with, you know, like they have a lot of moving parts. It would make a lot more sense for me to go to my manager first and talk to her, who knows me and is part of this situation, and then if she can't figure it out, then go to someone else. Do you know what I'm saying? So definitely try to have a good relationship with your prof referent or just someone at the school that can be your ally. I think that makes it so much easier, and it's super, super, super helpful to have allies at your school. And if you don't, I think that can make it a little bit harder. But like I said, that is one of the reasons why I had a super positive experience, is because I had amazing teachers. So another reason why I had a positive experience, and this isn't super important, but I do think it just kind of goes into like your stress level and things like that. So whenever my teachers would miss a class, so I would show up to school and the teacher wouldn't be there. So it would be, which it wasn't a big deal, it was like a 10-minute walk, so whatever. I'm not kidding you, once a week I had a teacher who didn't show up for some reason. Obviously different teachers, like their child was sick, they couldn't get there. We had a horrible transport strike from December to January. Couldn't get to, which also that's another huge thing about living close to work, is you never have to worry about transport being late, the metro, the buses, la la la. Anyways, so if a teacher didn't show up to work, they never made me make up the hours, because technically with the program, if a teacher misses, it's not on us to make up the hour, because we aren't qualified to teach by ourselves, because you're not required to have a teaching degree. Like, I'm not a real teacher, I'm just there to be an assistant. It was, I mean, like, there were some days where I would have one class, and so instead of the hours, like, building up, and then the teachers being like, oh, you need to make it up, you need to do this, you need to do that, like, they were all just really chill as far as, and I know some other Tapifers, some of their teaching assistants had trouble where the principal or the teachers would ask them to make up the hours that they missed, which I think caused a lot of conflict. So I never had to worry about that. And there were a couple, I think I missed one time for myself because I had an appointment with basically I needed to validate my visa and get like a medical check. So I missed a class, and I was like, oh, let me know and we can make it up. And she was like, just don't worry about it. Like, it's not a big deal. So, like, I mean, I just had like the nicest, most relaxed, chill teachers. I loved them. I had such a great experience with them. Like, just the best. So, those are kind of the main reasons why I had a positive experience. Just gonna do some like quick fire advice before I wrap it up. First piece of advice, try to like finesse your schedule. Someone told me this, and so I did it. She said that she requested to only work on certain days, and she literally told the schools that that's it. I can only do these days, sorry, because she was au pairing. So I told the schools that I could only work Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And I told them because I wanted to leave Wednesday open in case I needed to like nanny to make extra money, because children in France they usually only have a half day on Wednesday or no school on Wednesdays. So definitely keeping your Wednesday free will allow you to so if you keep your Wednesday free, you'll be able to get some extra hours of work, hopefully, and just kind of free up your schedule. So that's really useful. Second piece of advice is when you go to, this is like going way back, but when you go to your visa appointment, just be prepared, I would say. This goes for any visa appointment that you ever go to in your life. Have your papers ready. I literally had one folder with all my documents in the exact order that they asked for them. Don't put it in a different order. I think it annoys them. Just give them what they need. And then I brought a second folder of photocopies in case they needed anything. I don't think they needed any copies. In the Tapif application, they tell you to bring like 4 copies of some documents, but that was not my experience. But just bring copies just in case, you never know. And then number 3, and I think this is just kind of a great way to end off my advice, is give it your best shot. Kind of give it your all, even if you don't like teaching. Just being enthusiastic and trying your best, I think, is super helpful, because I know a lot of people don't come here being like, yeah, I want to be an English teacher when I grow up, when after this, like, I have never really had ambitions of being an English teacher, but I really loved teaching this year. I thought it was so fun, and I really just gave it my all. If a teacher asked me to do a presentation, I would make a little slideshow, you know, I'd make a PowerPoint, and I would really just like try to be a good teacher. Basically, I just did my best, and I think from the feedback that I got really great feedback, and I think the teachers liked working with me. I always tried to be really positive, and I just basically just accepted things as they came. Like, there were a couple teachers that I don't think they really used me that much, or really, not that they didn't want me, but they just kind of like had me off to the side. But I was like, you know what, that's totally cool. Like, this is their classroom. Whatever they want to do, like, that's totally fine. And I think like I have felt a certain type of way about it, perhaps. But I just kind of rolled with the punches, and I think that's a great way to go about it, is just to kind of say, this is their school, their territory, I'm here to help, and just kind of going with whatever they say, you know? So something that I really liked that the people in the Francofile video did, they just kind of ran through a list of checkpoints that they said, if this applies to you, I wouldn't exactly recommend it, which I definitely agree with. So these are their list of checkpoints, and once again, like I said, I want to give them credit, so I'll put the link to their video down below. But they said this program really shouldn't be for you if, 1, I'm not confident in my French. I do think that is important. 2, I have $0 in my savings account. I do think it's important to have a little bit of money when you come here, because you aren't going to get paid for a month. Also, if you're like looking for an apartment, need to put down a security deposit. I didn't really have a lot of money coming here this year, but that's because I had somewhere to live, and I knew I was going to find another job like as soon as I got here. So I do think that's important. I think if you don't have a lot of money, you need to have a plan. That is huge. Don't just come here kind of willy-nilly, like know what you're going to do. Maybe you have somewhere to live, something like that. 3, I'm not prepared to live by myself. Also super important. If you feel like it's going to be detrimental to your mental health to be living alone, or if you got a placement where you know you're going to be kind of isolated, maybe say no to this, you know? 4, and then number 4, I don't think my mental health can take these challenges. This is also super important, to kind of just take care of your mental health and know that moving to France is going to be really, really challenging. And so kind of maybe also having a plan, how am I going to take care of my mental health when I come here? What strategies do I have? What resources can I find before coming to France? I would definitely recommend that, kind of looking into what support you can have before you come here. So I think that is really important as well. But I thought those were 4 just really, really great points, because I know this video has focused on my positives, but there are some negatives. So yeah. So I think that'll about round it up. But thank you guys so much for watching. I know this is probably going to be kind of a lengthy video, but I really just wanted to kind of put out my experience in the world, because it has been just a really great year. I feel like I've had such a great time. It's been really like pretty easy for me. I feel bad saying that, because I know there are a lot of people that this was a really hard year for them, but I just wanted to be honest about my experience. But I've just really enjoyed it. So let me know what you guys think of the program. Do you have any other questions for me? Please comment what you guys think, and if you have those questions. And thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video.